Bosberg, two of the famous climbs from the Tour of Flanders. It's then a lumpy run through to the finish line, where it is an ideal day for the sprinters, 194.5 kilometres, but Robbie, it is slightly uphill as they do approach the finish line. One man who is smiling, though, is the great Eddie Merckx.
Well, Eddie Merckx, he's had a smile on his face for about the last 3 days, all the events that have been happening here around the Tour, and Eddie is, of course, the guest of honour at every single one of them yesterday with the royal family, King Philip I, along with his wife Matilda, and Eddie Merckx is just walking on air through his Brussels at the moment. He grew up here, he is the local man, and has brought cycling into the hearts and souls of the Belgian community. And the other night on stage, 75,000 people shouting his name. It was like the biggest rock star in the world playing Wembley.
Final countdown before they're about to get started. Then they'll go through the neutral zone, which will take approximately 25 minutes. Then the real flag comes in at kilometre 0 to get the race started. The man in the middle of the picture, with his back to us, that's Lars back. He is the oldest rider in the race, 39 years of age, 100 days older than the second oldest, which is Alejandro Valverde. This is the Grand Place, the main square in the heart of Brussels, and part of the charm of Eddie Merckx for the Belgian public is that he brings together the two halves of the country, with one of his parents being Flemish-speaking native and the other one being a French-speaking native. I think it was his father was from the Flemish-speaking part of the country and his mum from the French side.
Well, Eddie was famously once asked, Eddie, do you identify as French or Flemish? He said, I'm Belgian.
Started at the front of the grid. They've got many of the national champions. 12 of the current national road champions are in the race. Also up at the front, the reigning world champion Alejandro Valverde, who happens to also be the champion of Spain. The defending champion was also there, Geraint Thomas, and the reigning Olympic Games gold medalist. One of the big hopes for the Belgians in this year's race for stage victories, and perhaps a stint in yellow, Greg van Avermaet. 300 metres before that yellow flag comes in, Robbie, and then the race gets underway officially. The first big battle is who gets into the initial breakaway. And the race for the red number is the most combative. A title overall that was won last year by the Irishman Dan Martin.
And there it is.
The 106th edition of the Tour de France is officially underway. The flag is in Brussels and then back to Brussels. Two key climbs that have featured throughout the history of cycling in the famous Tour of Flanders, the Meurde-Gettysburgen and the Bosberg.
The first attacker not getting the gap.
176 coureurs au départ. Le Venosa of the day stage at 12:46, 12:26. Stage 1 of the 106th edition of the Tour de France between Brussels and Brussels via Charleroi. 194.5 kilometers of racing today and 176 riders at the start.
Two of the favourites for the stage victory, Groenewegen, Viviani, Caleb Ewan and Peter Sagan. But the race is on to get into the breakaway. In third position, Robbie, it is Greg van Avermaet.
Well, that is an interesting one to see Van Avermaet so active so early. You put these Belgian riders, particularly the Flemish riders, on the Flemish roads, and they just can't help themselves. It's stronger than they are. And maybe the pull of the polka dot jersey, and there's a little gap for this small group. Van Avermaet takes a look and says, this is the moment, out of the saddle. This is like a sprint.
This is a serious move from Greg van Avermaet. Berhan is in second position. He's the Eritrean national champion for the Cofidis team. And Greg van Avermaet, this is extraordinary. Very rarely do you see such a big figure of the sport in the breakaway on the first day of the Tour.
And that is giving it everything, Van Avermaet. The other others all looking back to assess how that gap is opening up as they leave the centre of Brussels and the European Commission building well behind them now, and the race starting to fall into an early pattern we see so often. But the first stage is always a difficult one. There's a lot of keen guys, and I would have expected a bit more of a fight from some of the Flemish riders in particular, going towards Ninove, Kirasbergen and that first KOM. And I think this is back up.
It is Monte Group Goubert flicking off from the fronts. Katusha Alpecin also represented in the breakaway, and that's a team that's had a really difficult season. Famous football grounds here in Brussels, and the Belgians, since 2002, their national football team has gone through the roof. They had a big restructure in the way that they do the national football development, and they sent out an edict to all the junior coaches that your objective is to have kids fall in love with the game. And if they fall in love with the game, then they'll just want to play. They won't be going to training, they'll be going to play with their mates. And it's worked. It's worked really well.
What's also worked really well is that acceleration by Cadek van Avermaet. One rider in the background trying to bridge across. These four have opened up a handy gap very, very quickly. And that tends to switch off the peloton. Not many riders will be game to try and ride across to a four-man move like this.
Not one with that sort of horsepower.
Oh, in fact, it wasn't Bakkart. It's Sandro Muriset, the Belgian rider from Wanty Group Goubert.
On a 33 first-timers in the Tour de France this year. And also in the move with Berhard and with the peloton, they look like they're in close-down mode.
Yeah, they certainly are. Across the road, gutter to gutter, and this is exactly what the sprinters teams would have wanted. A small group getting away. This is very controllable for the teams who want to bring everything back together for a bunch sprint here in Laken, where the Royal Palace is here in Brussels. Van Avermaet here on the back, 111. And I've got to admit, I am surprised to see him going on the attack. When there's opportunities ahead, like Monday into Epinal, it's certainly a finish that suits Greg Van Avermaet.
It shows the real change in this team, CCC. That's the team that for the past almost 10 years we've known as BMC. The team where Kid Evans won the Tour de France back in 2011. And for the last few years, Richie Porte has been their big focus to try and win the Tour overall. No longer a Richie Porte that team, he's across at Trek Segafredo. Huge reduction in their budget as well. So it's a team that Van Avermaet has spoken about, is they can race with more freedom and hunt for stages.
Not only can, they must. They don't have a sprinter, they don't have a GC rider, so it's a team full of opportunists, and they've got to try and take every opportunity.
Well, last year, that team, as BMC, they did win the team time trial, and as a result of that, Van Avermaet spent 8 days in the leader's jersey. Back of the peloton, Robbie, number 215, one of your old rivals, one of the war horses of the peloton, Andre Greipel.
Yeah, riding alongside Niels Pollitt from Katusha, another German rider. And Andre Greipel, well, he'll be really hoping for quite a turnaround in his form. Just hasn't been on this season at all.
Can he win? Can he win here in the Tour this year?
I'm going to say no.
Is it coming down to he's just simply aging and slowing down a little bit, or the lack of the lead-out train that he'll have at one of the smaller French teams, RKS?
I think a combination of both. I think, a year older, just not quite with that punch that he had from 2008 through 2016, maybe.
He went 12 Grand Tours in a row, winning a stage.
Yeah, he's been quite incredible. And I always maintain that as an elite athlete, whatever the sport, I think the window of being at your absolute best is 8 years. You might have a couple of years pretty good on the way up and a couple of years pretty good on the way down. For the absolute peak, 8. He's been through that 8. He's had a couple of years just coming off the ball, still winning races. I think now he's just beyond being able to win at the Tour de France.
Slightly past that window. Good sign for the breakaway. It's nature break time.
I've got to say, nonetheless, I'd love to see him win a stage.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He's been a fantastic rider and ambassador for the sport. And I would like to see him win a stage.
Number 65, Mikel Landa from Movistar in the blue colours on the left.
He's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get with Lander. Almost, in a way, you sort of can know what you're going to get. At some stage, he will attack his teammates.
At the rear is the Eritrean national champion, Natne Burhan, back with the French team. He spent a couple of seasons across the team we know as Dimension Data. Prior to that, he rode with the Europcar team, now known as Total, formerly Direct Energy. So he's got a good feel for the French squads, and he loves the idea of not just trying to inspire kids from Eritrea. He wants to inspire all of Africa to race a bike. He's going about it the right way.
He certainly is an entertaining rider, and when we get into the mountains, expect to see him here a 3D of the course, and where our front group finds themselves. They are the Tête de la Course, and that breeze, 12 kilometres an hour at the moment, so just a breeze. And there is the Mur de Grammont, the Mur van Gerardsbergen, Category 3 climb.
Originally, the race organisers, ASO, they wanted to take in more of the roads, the famous Flemish roads from the Tour of Flanders in this region, but the locals said, not a good decision. It'd be too tough to close things down with the crowds we expect for the Tour de France, and you don't want to lose one of the contenders to win the race overall on day one. The right decision was made.
It would have been on equal footing with a Roubaix stage.
Oh no, that was fantastic.
And they did that last year, so they said, we don't do that 2 years in a row. Don't count it out for the future.
Yeah. Last year, it was as exciting as that stage was. The race lost Richie Port and Rigoberto Urán. Two guys that would have been great animators of the race in the mountains. But gee, I enjoyed the stage.
It was a fantastic stage to watch, and an incredible winner in John Degenkolb. Such an emotional win for him, coming back from those injuries he suffered in that training incident where the team was hit by a car, and it took him a long time
3 years
to come back. And that was really the peak. He'd really got himself back where he was before. It was a huge moment for him. Of course, the tears were flowing.
And significantly, he's a teammate this year of Richie Port, but not selected for the Tour. So the team very much focusing on Richie, leaving their sprinter at home. Luke Durbridge squeezing his way forward. He's a man of these roads. He loves the Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix. He's got a job today to look after the Yates twins.
Oh, there we see the choppers of the VIPs.
Nice way to watch the Tour.
Pretty good gig to get.
Stop in a field, have a champagne.
Watch the race go by, jump back in, go to another spot, sit down, have a picnic lunch.
There'll be no champagne today. Beer, Fritz and